Welcome back to a walk through the tarot. The Fool has arrived at card 9, the Hermit. This is the archetype of solitude, of someone withdrawn and secluded. In the previous video, our Fool stepped onto the second row of cards. He met strength and was reassured that he has the inner resources his journey will require, but still feels unsure about what comes next. The Hermit may be able to help. We're going to look at the background to this card, examine the symbols and explore the messages it might have for the Fool as he takes the next step on his walk through the tarot. Tarot decks from Renaissance Italy called this card Time or Old Man. The figure was linked to the ancient Greek god Kronos, who was the personification of time. In early tarot, an hourglass represents individual life from birth to death. The long beard suggests age and is often shown with a walking stick. Once tarot arrived in France in the 17th century, the card was retitled the Hermit. And the word hermit derives from the Greek eremite for living in the desert and eremos for solitary. It was used to describe a person choosing solitude, often for religious purposes. The French Marseillaise-style decks from the 1600s continued to show a bearded man with a stick, but replaced the hourglass with a lantern to help him find the way in the darkness. In the 18th and 19th centuries, French occultists changed the meaning of the card. Antoine Court de Gebelin claimed the hermit was a philosopher in search of world truths and esoteric wisdom. A century later, Eliphas Levi introduced the concept of initiation into hermetic and mystical secrets. The hermit's lantern was no longer a tool for seeing the way in the physical darkness, but now represented an inner path towards spiritual enlightenment. In the early 20th century, Arthur Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith introduced another level of interpretation. The hermit no longer sought wisdom for himself. He became a guide or teacher who could show other people the way. He was placed on a mountain top both to show his own achievement and to encourage others to find and to follow him. The Fool is intrigued by the solitary nature of this card. As much as he enjoys the company of others, he's also comfortable being on his own. So let's take a closer look at the symbolism in the Waite Coleman Smith version of the card. A seeker of knowledge, his world is all that is unseen as well as seen. The light from the hermit's lantern is the shape of a hexagram or six-pointed star. In occult circles, this is known as the Seal of Solomon. It symbolises the balance of opposing forces as well as being magical protection, and it represents the light of inner wisdom. The lantern shows the hermit has achieved his goal. He's found himself, and the light is there to beckon others to join him. The hermit knows the way, and his star is meant to be followed. He wears a long cloak, which signifies privacy and offers the outer protection needed for self-discovery. He still carries a stick. In some older decks, this had notches or sprouted leaves, but here the staff is smooth. Sticks were often used for counting, each notch representing whole numbers like 10 or 100. It was a way to keep track, but this hermit has no need for such devices. His knowledge is internal. He stands on top of a mountain covered in snow. The path of spiritual enlightenment can be lonely and sometimes difficult. He's chosen a high place to search for higher answers, but is also clearly visible and shines a light for others to follow. So, what lessons does the hermit have for our Fool, who is only just beginning to understand the world of his unconscious self? Let's take a closer look at the messages in this card. The Fool is seeing connections between the archetypes. A consistent message from the first row of cards told the Fool that he consists of different layers of consciousness. His conscious layer has shaped much of his life, but the archetypes have hinted at deeper and unconscious levels. The magician was all about action, using the creative energy of the universe to make things happen. In contrast to the magician, the hermit appears still and silent, but the fool is learning when it comes to tarot there's often more underneath the surface, and this card represents a magic of a different, more invisible kind. In card 5, the fool met the Hierophant. He represented social structures like the church, which sees God as an external power to be followed and obeyed. The hermit believes experience of the divine or sacred can be achieved through isolation, in a similar way to the mystic yogis of Eastern philosophy and other holy men in ascetics who turn their backs on society. This hermit represents personal transformation, both by example and as a guide for other seekers of wisdom. There's another world behind the temple veil, guarded by the high priestess. Eventually, our fool will be able to lift the veil to walk through, and the hermit is there to show him the next step on the way. With the Empress, these saw the miracles of life and how the natural world reproduces itself in continual cycles, while the Emperor and Chariot represented the risks of ignoring what can't be seen on the inside. The hermit is there to tell our fool there are many paths to self-discovery, and one of these is through dreams. However you approach them, dreams have remained mysterious, in particular when they seem prophetic or the dead come back to talk. Dreams can also become nightmares, but no one really knows what they mean. The hermit is telling our fool he must be more aware of his dreams, to note them as soon as he wakes, and to explore the practice of lucid dreaming so he can develop more control of their progress. Dreams are always individual. Their images and experiences may contain messages. The hermit also tells the fool he needs to find the right path to support his growing inner awareness. There are hundreds to choose from, and the hermit knows them all. He can't say which path is right for the fool, but his advice is to open some doors and to invite exploration. He reminds the fool of the Strength card because it contained reassurance. The fool has all the inner resources he needs for the journey, but finding the most appropriate place to begin can take time, and ultimately he needs to learn to be alone. This is the essence of the Hermit card. It's an invitation to withdraw from outer society and enter the world of the mind, to take a quest into inner silence and reflection, to avoid external stimuli in order to gain introspection. Wisdom comes from solitude. All the answers he seeks are inside of him, but this card, like all tarot cards, also contains dual meanings. There might be a need to pause in a relationship because it's no longer working, and time out is needed to consider the best way forward. The hermit can also represent too much isolation, or alternatively a fear of being alone, which can lead to social anxiety or the rejection of inner wisdom because it feels too different and frightening. There might be a need for the re-evaluation of ideas and goals, to step back rather than following the crowd. Isolation can feel lonely at first, but meditation and mindfulness have gifts of their own, so long as the fool sustains his efforts to practice and to listen. Self-awareness is an essential lesson from the Hermit card. The fool can learn from other people and the knowledge they've shared, but he needs to do the hard work of looking inside himself as well. It will require a leap of faith. To analyse without fully understanding can be hard, but also revealing. The next card the fool will meet on his journey is the Wheel of Fortune, and this will invite him to think about fate, circumstance, and the principles of karma. Whatever decisions he makes, the wheel of life will continue to turn, so join us for the next step in a walk through the tarot.